Hi, welcome. My name is Andrea Gonzalez with Trellis Strategies. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of our Trellis Strategies 360 discussion series. We're grateful to have the expertise and wisdom of our panelists today, Dr. Pam Eddinger, president of Bunker Hill Community College. In this series, if you've been following along, we're discussing innovative leadership for the modern learner. And we're doing this by having one-on-one conversations with presidents and chancellors of post-secondary institutions. Our discussion will be led by our president and CEO, Dr. Debra Chromy. And all participant videos will be off, but we do encourage you to share questions or comments in the chat or in the Q&A. And we will respond to those at the end of our discussion. A recording of this video will be sent to everyone who registered, even if they aren't tuned in today. They'll still get a chance to view it. And it looks like people have been filing in and we're good to go. I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Chromy.
Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate all the work you've done behind the scenes to pull this together. And I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you all for joining us today. As Andrea mentioned, I'm Debra Chromy, President and CEO at Trellis, and it is my distinct honor to have with us today Dr. Pam Eddinger, who is President of Bunker Hill Community College. For those who don't know Pam, she is president, not only is she president of Bunker Hill Community College, but it is one of 15 community colleges in Massachusetts. It's the largest, serving 16,000 students. Prior to being at Bunker Hill Community College, Pam began her tenure, before being at Bunker Hill Community College, she was at Moore Park College in Southern California. Dr. Eddinger's service in the community college movement spans 30 years, with senior posts in academics, student affairs, communication, policy, and executive leadership. And you can Google about her, but I don't want to spend a lot of time going through her bio. We're going to talk about some of the things she's doing, including a book that's coming out soon, but I wanted to jump into the conversation. Thank you again, Pam, for joining us today.
Oh, I'm going to anticipate so much fun, Debra.
I think we will have. I always have fun with these. So I'm going to start by asking you to talk a little bit about the student population at Bunker Hill Community College, where you're located, because you're an urban campus.
Yes.
Because some of the folks that are on the call are folks from Texas and may not be as familiar with Bunker Hill Community College.
Okay. So I would love to say to you that Bunker Hill is unique and exceptional. We may be exceptional, but we're not unique. We are a mid-size urban New England coastal community college. So we are about a third traditional age. 2/3 of our students are adult, and average age is around 26. 3 out of 4 of our students work, many of them full-time, and 3 out of 5 are parents. We are drawing from at least 5 or 6 gateway cities. That's where immigrants settle, and they are, on the cusp of development. Our communities are diverse, from coming from the center of Boston to the outlying towns. 77% of our students are living in the lowest 2 quintile of income. But like a lot of our community college, almost all of our community colleges, once they credential with us, once they're done with us, they usually rise 2 quintile in income. So there's a great deal of economic mobility. We have about, I would say, 700 international students from 100 countries speaking 75 languages. So we're incredibly diverse, probably the most diverse institutions in the United States, continental United States. The rest of them are in Hawaii. So we are very much concerned about our connection to not only our students, but their families and the community. And things that happens here within the walls of the college have a really direct impact on both economic mobility of the students, the workforce, and regional economic development, and just the vibrancy of our communities.
Which is great. And the other thing I'll share is that you're on the subway system.
Oh,
So
yes.
so in Austin, we don't have a subway system. So when we think about transportation issues,
Yeah.
that is not completely solved, but in some way solved by the fact that you're easily accessible by public transit, right?
It is. My office overlooks the plaza where the train comes out. So if you're there for about an hour, there's two or three waves of people who are just coming and going from the plaza. It is really fabulous. We're on what we call the Orange Line. And along the Orange Line, we have two community colleges. One is us, and the other one is our sister college, Roxbury Community College. They're literally 5 stops down. So it is a really wonderful way. All of our students come within a 10-mile radius of the campus, and then when they graduate, they stay. So we're the foundation of the workforce, and really the foundation of a lot of the economic stability in the city.
That's great. You may not know this about me, but I actually took a summer course at Bunker Hill Community College
No
so many years
kidding.
ago. Yes. Spanish 101. Don't test me on it, please.
Oh my, que bueno.
But listening to your description of your student population, it aligns incredibly well with what we've started to coin the modern learner.
Yeah.
And, we outlined that in our 2025 Student Financial Wellness Survey results. And I'm just going to share a couple of stats around that for folks, just for context for our conversation, because it aligns incredibly well with the population you talked about. And that was that about 2/3 of respondents in our survey reported working for pay while enrolled, with similar rates of student employment across both 2- and 4-year institutions. When asked what they wanted the world to know about being a college student, one learner responded, with college so expensive and the price to live being so expensive, a lot of college students have to actually work more than 2 jobs to scrape by. So that sounds a bit like your population as well.
Yeah.
Almost all of those who self-identified as workers first, students second, work at least 20 hours per week, with almost 6 in 10 working at least 40 hours per week. Compared to those who identified as students first, those who prioritized their identity as a worker were much more likely to provide financial support to their family, either children, 31%, a spouse, 23%, or other family members. So it's a very different population than we're used to seeing. Yes. And the interesting thing, and I'd be curious if you see this as well, despite all of these financial concerns and barriers that this population of modern learners is living through, according to our survey, the majority of them feel that college is worth it. And they're there because they do believe it is going to change their lives, especially from an economic mobility perspective.
Right. It's interesting where there's a lot of narrative going around saying, well, higher education has lost the public's trust. That's because folks really do believe that the college student is still 17 to 21. They are still, living in the suburbs, 2 parents, picket fence, a dog, and when they run out of money, they call home for mom and dad.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a mythology for us. This student really doesn't exist in my world.
No. And if they do, they're few and far between, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's less than a third. And what you said about the higher education being still trusted as an opportunity giver is absolutely true. A lot of our students, almost 70%, if not more of our students, are first generation college goers. But that's always batched together with other characteristics, right? That they are immigrant, they're second language speakers, they are not only first in their family, sometimes first in the generation in the United States going to college. And it is not only the mythology that they fight about whether they're working or not. College is a luxury good for these students. When something happens, when something is disrupted, college is the first to go, right? That is the first layer that they shed. So we've become really conscious of that, I think, over the last 10 years. And a lot of the services and a lot of the ethos that we're developing over the last decade is geared towards that student-centeredness, right? And then beyond that, the centeredness of their ecosystem, not ours, but theirs. And increasingly, we're realizing that our higher education system, whether it be community colleges or otherwise, is not built for the modern learner or the learner that you and I are describing as they're probably going into majority right now.
They are. Our data shows that they are the majority, which is unfortunate because policies and programs and everything is set up for what traditional. So can you talk a little bit, Pam, about what you have done on your campus to really make the environment easier for this population to navigate, those that have childcare issues or elder care issues or working multiple jobs? What have you been able to do to sort of accommodate that population and help make it easier from a student-centric perspective for them?
Right. So I always look at the ability to attend college or participate in post-secondary education is sitting on a three-legged stool.
Mhm.
Right. The first is always financial. You have that background as well,
Right,
having been in
right.
the financial aid world, that no matter what you say, unless you can pay for tuition and fees, and unless you can feed your family while you're paying tuition and fees, you're not going to come.
Right.
So in Massachusetts, we've been lucky. We have joined the College Promise movement, really, in a way. And over 45 now states in the union have some form of free community college, whether it's state or municipal or otherwise. So Massachusetts has gone free community college for all qualifying students. So if you apply for the Pell Grant, even if you only get $1 of the Pell Grant, everything else is taken care of. It's backstopped. So that has made access a lot easier. The second is because our students are first generation and many of them are coming from a background where they're not prepared. Underpreparedness is there. We've put a lot of efforts into things like tutoring, in both in class and external tutoring that are virtual, so people can get to it in the middle of the night. Navigators and coaches, because folks, you need a map. You
Right.
need a map to
Right.
navigate. So those are some of the student services pieces we put together. But the last piece is really cultural, and it's really about the environment in which our students live. We did a survey about 7 or 8 years ago when Sarah Gardner Grapp was still writing her book and establishing the Real College agenda. She came on campus, and the survey that we did was for homelessness and for food insecurity. 54% of our students were food insecure. So over any 30-day period, they either are not eating enough, not eating the right thing, not feeding their family.
Right.
And 14% of our students are homeless. And when you're homeless, you can't cook. So it compounds the issue. So what we've done over the last 10 years is to realize that wraparound services is not just advisors and folks to help you navigate or tutoring. It really is food, transportation, childcare. We have a federal C-Campus grant that allows us to support about 50 students for all of their childcare needs, and we have childcare vouchers. Transportation, discounted transportation, that T that connects us,
Right.
that's part of it. But it is also the sensibility that this stress the student is under is one point in time, right? You are not poor and unable to support higher education because it's in your genes. It is not. It's one point in time. Once you get over that hump, you will be that nurse, you will be that fireman, you will be that accountant, you will be that scholar, right, who will be able to support your family. So we try to destigmatize the idea of wraparound service. So we have a referral system at the college that everybody who works here, as well as some of the alum who are still hanging around, knows that the first thing you tell your student is where's the library, where's the food pantry, right? What happens when your carburetor breaks down? Our foundation fundraise to do all of that work. And frankly, I think all the community colleges do that now, the emergency pieces. But one piece that we're committed to is no matter how hard you work, you cannot food pantry your way out of poverty. You just can't.
That's right.
So we've been doing a lot of work on the policy level with our state government. So now there is actually a budget line in the state budget that addresses campus hunger, and there are other support systems that are coming into place, and I think that's the longer term solution. And, plus education. We
Right.
have as many work study people as we can accommodate.
Yes, no, and that's really important. And we're going to talk more about some of the innovative things that you're doing there. But, I always go back to even whether it's K-12 or post-secondary higher ed,
Yeah,
if you're hungry, you can't learn. If you're
that's right.
hungry, you can't concentrate. You can't,
Right.
so many other things. Or if you don't know where you're going to put your head down at night, it makes
Yeah.
it very difficult. So I think it's a really important piece that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And in
Agreed.
our student financials wellness survey, we see a lot of that as well in terms of feedback, including, and the other one I'll ask you about is mental health issues. Certainly, it's been
Yeah.
there all along, but post-COVID and during COVID, it seems to have popped up a bit more. And it
Yeah.
seems to me that is another piece that is impacting the ability of the population to be able
Right.
to persist and to continue and to complete.
So what we did during COVID is that we actually declared COVID not only a health emergency, we declared it here on campus along with our surrounding cities that this is a mental health emergency, particularly for our communities of Black and Brown men. And we looked at the numbers and it was very specific. And everybody else is struggling as well, right?
Right.
So it's a matter of degrees. So what I did was I called for the formation of a mental health commission on campus. And we had everybody who wants to work on this come around the table. We had about 45 to 50 people. And there were three buckets of work under the commission. There was a bucket of work that had to do with teaching and learning, and how to get more information, and how to interact with students, both our staff and our faculty, students in a trauma-informed way, and how to handle and refer mental health emergencies, right, in their own spaces. And then we had another group within that worked with our staff who are serving the students who are having these difficult issues on how to refer what emergency signs to look for. And then the last piece is the establishment of a mental health center. We didn't, because we were we still are a commuter school. We did not have a counseling center, and therefore the only thing we can do is to sort of stabilize and refer. We now have a full staff, and I think it's made a great deal of difference, just relieving the stress of the students. So yeah, there's some things that came out of COVID that are innovations that we're going to try to keep around.
Which is great. And I hope that's true for all the institutions who have put, things like that in place.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
I know that Bunker Hill Community College has a unique way of dealing with the transfer issue that we face here in Texas. So, meaning here in Texas, if someone finishes community college, not all of their credits transfer necessarily to a four-year institution. But you have, and I don't know if this is statewide or specific to Bunker Hill Community College, you have this dual acceptance model there. Can you talk about that and the impact that's had on the ability for individuals, especially these modern learners, to continue on and get a four-year degree?
Yeah, we've tried a couple of things, and some of it is beginning to spread. I have the distinct honor of serving both in Massachusetts and having served in California before that. When I was coming out of California, California was establishing a model that is a mandatory transfer model where the four-year colleges and the two-year colleges came together, and they define what is in the province of two-year education and what is in the province of four-year education. So the transfers are guaranteed almost.
Right.
If you finish your associate degree here, you must be able to get into your major at the four-year college. We haven't gotten that far here in Massachusetts, but we went in a different direction.
Mm.
One is I call it, one is a bachelor completion program where I have four-year colleges on my campus teaching the last 2 years here in the same classrooms. My 2 year, my 2 year students are occupying. One of the key transfer piece, aside from not losing any credits, is really the mental connectedness of the student, right? You have a mother of four and struggling to support family and so on. She's established her routine. And now you're saying to her, no, you need to do two transfers and go to UMass Boston.
Right.
And the leakier that pipeline, for whatever reason, the more exit points, as you know, the more likely folks are to drop. So we've been doing this for, close to 10 years now. Yeah. And the students go, they graduate in the spring with us, and then in the fall, they come back to the same place and they're with the four-year teachers. That works. The dual admissions model, and we have it with three of our public universities and at least one or two of our private four-year nonprofits, is that students when they get accepted at Bunker Hill, they also get accepted into the four-year. And what happens is that we agree on curriculum, so folks are not losing credit. So it's very specific. And the students will get an ID from both colleges. So they're living the life of a four-year existence, and they are free to participate in all of the things that makes belonging worthwhile, right, at both places. And we do actually have resident advisors from a four-year college on campus. So we're acting as if this kind of divide doesn't really exist. You just come and you do your thing and you keep doing your thing until you're done. We've done it for a couple of years, and it's been working. We're waiting for other folks to adopt it, and we have a number of two-year colleges, community colleges, joining into this effort, and we're all learning from one another. But it's working.
Which is great. And I'm assuming you have data that demonstrates that persistence and graduation rates, I'm assuming, are better than they would be if you said, okay, now you're on your own to go finish up.
Well, I mean, the data set is a little wide. I mean, we're trying to narrow down the joint admissions data, but the data sets for four-year transfer is actually pretty good on the whole. The students who are transferring do as well, if not better, than native students. And it's a fact that folks don't talk about very often. Mm-hmm. But it's I think it's that drive that folks associate with more mature students or students who's been through it once.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right, and you're touching when you said more than once, you're touching on a topic which is very near and dear to my heart, which is the population that have some college, no credentials. So we've hit the demographic cliff. There are fewer 18-year-olds, and there will be for a while, graduating from high school. Good thing we have, reframed to think more about the adult or the modern learner.
That's right.
And in Texas, we have, I think there's close to 40 million nationwide. In Texas, we have close to 4 million. I'm guessing you might be closer to 1 million in Massachusetts, or
770,000. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah. So it's that population that I think about as needing to be, that we need to encourage them to come back, because we're going to have a problem. We don't have enough workers for the jobs today and beyond. And they're a perfect population because they tried it. And my gut is, and we've done some research on this, the reason most people stop out is financial or a life event that happens. And then life goes on. So they need that encouragement to sort of come back, et cetera. And I'm going to tie this question together. Sorry, it's a long question. With workforce needs. So being able to say to somebody, you're not just coming back to get a credential. You're coming back to get a credential that's going to equal a job where you are going to be better off than you are today. That type of messaging.
Yeah, it is. And I'm happy to report that one of the best things Massachusetts has ever done is to join the free community college movement because it touches everything that you just talked about, right? It is really one leg of that three-legged stool to it's opportunity cost.
Yeah.
So we started free community college 2 years ago. So I've had data from two different fall semesters, and combined, I've gained 1,900 students.
Wow.
It's like growing a little college on the side, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Because of free community college. And when we look into who these students are who are coming back, some of them are students who are now going directly from high school to college because they don't have to stop off to work.
Right.
But a good portion of the population are the 770,000
Yeah.
with some college and no degree. We really believe that, well, when Governor Healy and our Senate President, Karen Spilka, imagined this free community college piece, they did have the workforce in mind. This is as much an educational investment as it is for them a workforce development investment. It, I'm, I am, so I have 1,900 more students, and we just had graduation. I had 300 more graduates this
Wow.
year. We had around 1,200 last year. We have 1,500 this year. We literally have more people walking across the stage, and it's working, right? It is, yeah, Nathan Grahl can scare the heck out of you when he starts quoting all of the demographic cliff stuff, but that and the national, clearinghouse has been so clear about where that research is, and we're following the research.
Yeah.
And it,
I do want to capacity issue. So do you have a number you can't go past? Like, is there a number beyond which you can support?
That's a really good question. We don't do it in the California model. We don't say, don't come, we don't have any more money.
Right.
We say, keep coming because we're going to go to Capitol Hill and we're going to ask for more money to support you, which I think is a more reasonable model.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about free community college is that it supports the student because it's their opportunity cost. We get a little bit of money in a pot we call the Success Fund, which is meant to grow capacity to serve more students. But the state budget, as with the federal, some of the fallouts of the federal budget, and the federal budget is 30% of the state budget. State budgets are going to be lean for the next couple of years. So I'm looking at 1,900 more students and certainly not enough to serve them in a way that I want to.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that we stop. We are trying to be more efficient while preserving that real one-on-one coaching, right? So we're trying to get the system to work better so that we're not, doing paperwork. Instead, we're in front of students. And that type of work, it is an issue because a lot of them figure, well, we gave you money for the students, you're all set.
Right.
No, I'm not all set.
The door is opened up. Yeah.
Just come on in. But
Yeah.
we're not going to turn students away. I mean, that would defeat everything that we've said that we wanted to do. So if they're coming, we're taking them in.
Right. Can you also talk, we talk a little bit about the workforce part and employer partnerships, in particular, paid apprenticeships or internships or ways that, and I think that if I'm remembering correctly, you're doing something unique with that apprenticeship piece in terms of credit as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes into the bucket of work-based learning. Right. So we've decided about 5-6 years ago that we would follow the guided pathway framework. And a lot of folks around the table probably know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
It has 4 pillars that you run a pathway program where you have meta majors. So students know how to sort themselves. Right. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is that everybody gets an orientation and everybody gets an advisor. So you have a navigator. Mm-hmm. The third pillar is student planning, which is harder because we want every student to have a plan, visible plan, not just, something in your back pocket. And the fourth piece is that the research is bearing out experiential learning and work-based learning is what gets them into the door of the workplace, and students are much more attached. So what we've done, and this was over a decade ago, we were asked to take up the community college version of a co-op program. And we said that we would do it, but we wouldn't do it for free. Students, they must be paid.
Right.
Because for our population, I don't dare to tell an adult supporting their family, oh, quit your job, go take up that 4-month internship for $25 an hour. I can't do it. It's an equity issue.
Right.
So all of our internships are paid, and they are also paid a transportation stipend.
Nice.
Because it's $6.50 to go to and from work on the T.
Right.
And that's somebody's daily allowance for food. So we've been very, very good about that. And that's been running for more than a decade, and it's doing well. We've got 2 different things going that has to do with work-based learning. One is we're starting something called degree apprenticeship. We were very fortunate to be funded, very well funded by the Smith Family Foundation, that's based here in Boston, and Accelerate the Future. We're doing something called degree apprenticeships. Now, folks are familiar with registered apprenticeships where you get tax credits from the federal government, and apprenticeship is special because it ends in occupation, right? When you're done, you get a job, and your employer is taking your student and teaching with you. Sometimes it works well. Sometimes it's a little bit off kilter with emerging industries, like things in healthcare, which was never in that construction trades framework for apprenticeships. But degree apprenticeships are. So students will do the apprenticeship model where they have related technical instruction at the college. They have on-the-job training with the employer. At the end of their apprenticeship, they will get a job. They're training for a job, but they will also get a degree. Right. For example, nursing, right, or anything that you can think of, surgical technology, they get an associate degree and a job. And for me, it's sort of a double guarantee. It's important that they get that work base in the beginning of the career, but acknowledge it or not, degrees and credentials are still coin of the realm for higher ed. If they want to go on to a bachelor's level learning or master's level or a doctorate, they need to have those credits. You can't just say, I got an apprenticeship, I'm going to now go to my master's degree, right? It doesn't work like that. So this gives us the ability to have it both ways.
Right. And I think with the population we're talking about, the modern learner, they're not coming back for the purposes just because they want a piece of paper. They're coming back for a job that pays well, that helps their family, right? And so
and part of the magic is that if you look across the United States at nursing and allied health programs, you see that from year 1 to year 2, sometimes you have a lot of drop-offs, a lot of dropouts. And then the rest of them, once they get sorted out that way, they do really well. And I was not satisfied with that. So I said to my provost, we've got to figure out why. You get 50% attrition from year 1 to year 2.
Right.
It is because not only are they going to clinicals, which are not paid, because they have to support their family, they're working like 80 hours a week. That's why they drop off from year 1 to year 2. So if the clinicals are paid, and that's one of the barriers, right, to convince both accrediting commissions and approval bodies and the employers that they need to be paid. Now they're buying back the hours to study. And I perfectly expect that our attrition rates will improve.
I think you're right. And I think it really creates this incredible pathway to employers. So hopefully that will line up more employers to say, I want to be part of that work, that apprenticeship program, because now I've got a sort of a pathway of people I can hire instead of going, where are the next people going to come from? So
right. And the apprentices are also acculturated to the culture of the workplace that you are, fostering. And I think that makes a huge amount of difference in worker retention.
Agreed.
All of that.
On both sides, you get to try before you buy, right? The individual student and the employer. Do I like this field? Do I like working for this this organization? And is this the person I want to? It's a great. I'm such a fan of apprenticeships, and
it's hard to start out because one of the things that community colleges, or at least the ones that I know, are new at is that we can pivot, whether it's during COVID, after COVID, we
Right.
take care of our students really well. But building employer relationship is something that we need to get better at because we can't do it all ourselves. We need those partners. And it's not our usual places, right, of operating. It's a real culture change.
It is. And I'm going to add one other piece on top of that, that is, as the world is changing so quickly, technology advancements, AI had to be said at some point during this hour, but um, existing employees. And so I'm going to give you a couple of examples. There's somebody who maybe came out of high school, went to work at a bank,
Yeah.
did well, got to a certain point, and now maybe doesn't need a degree because they've moved up, but they need additional skill sets.
They need training.
Whether it's how to manage people or how to use technology or how to go to that next level, they need it. And I think because of technology changes that are taking place, you're going to have a whole bunch of employers knocking on your door and saying,
Yeah.
I have a whole cadre of people that I need skilled up. And that, I believe that's going to be another wave. You're nodding your head like you agree, or maybe it's already happening.
I think it's already happening. I mean, it's funny what you said about AI must be mentioned in any 30-minute period, in our lives.
Right.
I want to balance those two, right? Because I think we need to cut the heck out with the hysteria with AI, right? It is technology. It's technology we develop. It is holding the hold of human information that we've developed as human beings. The differentiation between execution and judgment, I think, is where the next workforce is going to be. You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who understands and can operate AI.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I use that same quote all the time. And I don't know if you've heard the other quote. AI is not cheating. AI is competing.
That's right.
So, and I agree with you. In fact, I just had a call with my team earlier today, all my employees, and there was a question about AI, and I said, it's just another tool in the technology toolbox. It is not the be all end all of everything.
Right. I mean, at least in the teaching and learning space that we're dealing with here and in everyday work. I mean, there are larger philosophical, and environmental impacts that we know are there. Right. But do not bring that hysteria into what I need to do today.
Right.
I'll consider that, as we need to. I'm very optimistic. One of the things that we're trying to do here is that we realize that in the old days when we're still learning Excel and Word and all of that, we've incorporated computer literacy as one of the outcomes of an associate degree. Right. And I think in the same way, there needs to be some baseline of students understanding the wherewithal and functions of AI across the pathways. But once you get to specific pathways, the STEM pathway, folks in there use a different version or a different brand or a different ideation of AI versus the folks in the humanities.
Right.
The folks in STEM doesn't want to hear about ChatGPT and Copilot. They're going Claude or some other version that I can't even tell a difference about.
Right.
I think we need to be more specific. We need to be much more pointed, and it needs to be oriented and contextualized. But no, I'm hopeful about AI. I'm not worried that student wouldn't know AI. I just want it to be more seamless.
Right. And I guess I'm going back to the point. I think that, people wonder what's going to happen to post-secondary ed, especially with the demographic cliff and issues. But I think there's this whole other group, whether it's some college no credential, or as we talked about, people who are currently in the workforce. They're now saying, how many careers are you going to have in a lifetime? It's not one. You're not going to go work for IBM and work there for 30 years anymore. This is always going to be changing. And I always think of community colleges as the place you can come back to get, an additional skill set or certification or whatever that might be.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting how I've come to understand higher ed over the years. The very early models, you have Harvard on top. It's like a stack of pancakes. You have Harvard on top with a cherry, and the community colleges are on the bottom because of that hierarchy and basically elitism, right, in very many ways. But lately, I've been saying to people, take that stack of pancake and turn it on its side.
Yeah.
right? And that's the ecosystem. Every piece has a place. I wouldn't go to the community colleges if I want a doctorate in psychology, but then you wouldn't go to get developmental education or retraining at Harvard either.
Right.
So there is a mutual need that happens. But what's really important in the next step, I think, and I talk about this in the book, is that the higher education ecosystem cannot do it alone. We need the community-based organizations. We need the social safety net folks. We need to have business and industry. And when we say things like, oh, we're going to do an internship and that's the experiential learning, there's got to be a less transactional kind of partnership with business and industry and employers. If we don't do that, then it's just get what you want and leave, right? There's no symbiosis. And I think the most successful partnerships that I've seen are public-private partnerships that builds things, that creates opportunities, and it stays in the community. Because ultimately, the measure is not retention in the programs, it's not even completion in the programs. To me, is what do our students and our grads bring in terms of economic and social uplift in the community,
Correct.
and how those partnerships really transform the communities in one piece.
I agree. I've always said if you raise up an individual, you raise up a family, you raise up a family, you raise up a community. It all works. I want to go back because you mentioned your book, but this is the first mention of your book. So I'd love for you to share with the audience here the title of the book, what it's about, and when you can look forward to seeing it on bookshelves or on Amazon or wherever. Yes.
The title of the book is Beyond the College Walls, Partnership in Community College Reform. So it is there are three of us who edited the book, me and Richard Cases, a gentleman who's been in the field a long time, and Barbara McCarthy, one of my colleagues in the community college system here in Massachusetts. And it has 7 chapters and 7 authors. And a bunch of essays from the field from practitioners. So it's a collection really of thoughts. And we see the book as not so much a recipe book, is a book that is a thought partner in how to think about what kind of more vibrant partnerships you need to have with the people surrounding your ecosystem, like employers. The thesis is that, we can't do it alone, and we cannot do that transaction thing where you say, you give me 2 internships and I'm going to vote for you tomorrow.
Right.
And what we did was we got researchers, historians, practitioners, think tanks, and folks who critique and think about the future of community colleges to come together and talk about how they want to think about that partnership. And also to think about what defines community for them and what defines student-centeredness. So when you put all of these together, it's like sitting in a room with 7 really opinionated people and a lot of folks who are doing the work already and having coffee.
That sounds fabulous. Oh, I can't wait. And that's coming out this fall, right?
Yeah, it's coming out in October and is published by Harvard Education Press.
Great.
And I look forward to reactions. We're hoping that this will help the field.
Yeah, that'll be great. I look forward to it as well. I'm going to go back. You've talked an awful lot about changes that have taken place at Bunker Hill Community College and over the last 10 years, how things have transitioned. Where, if any place, did you feel the most resistance to that change as you were going through that process? What were the barriers or the roadblocks, and how did you overcome them?
The piece that's the hardest piece of change management is actually convincing people who have been so dedicated all their lives within higher education institutions that they need a partner. Right? We can do it ourselves. We are independent. We're autonomous institutions, and therefore we can do it. Well, no, you can't. You can't create those factory jobs. You can't create the jobs in the industries or build hospitals so you can house nurses. And because we have not really truly exercised that muscle of building across to employers or building across to community-based organizations, that is really the hardest piece. Yeah. And I think a lot of that work falls to the presidents and the CEOs and the chancellors. I can say to you that about 80% of my time, if not more, is spent external to the college, doing things that I'm doing with you now, right?
Mhm.
Getting the word out there to the field, supporting think tanks and associations in the changing of the narrative. And just doing a lot of community civic engagement building and leadership building. And and I now make a really decent salesperson.
You didn't think you were going to put that on your resume, but boy,
No,
oh
no, no,
boy.
it's not on my card either. That really is what it is, right? I'm telling the story of why community colleges is an added benefit for your sector.
Right,
And I've got a wonderful story to tell because my students tell the story for me most of the
right.
time. But we don't exercise that muscle, and it's one of the reasons why I think why there's a mistaken perception that there's no public trust for
Mm,
higher education
mm,
institutions because we care, but we care sometimes at a very philosophical level when it's looked at from the outside. It's also one of the reasons why community colleges have been passed over in terms of funding and in terms of prestige for so long because we are working in the field.
right.
And until somebody sort of elevate that narrative about the changing environment of our students and the need to lift up communities, we're nowhere in sight. But that's changing, and I think it's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear. It's funny. My question came from thinking about, your degree apprenticeships and the fact that someone is getting college credit for
Yes.
working. And that is so outside the norm of what,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
college degree equals, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean it's some of the old mythology, right? Those who can't do teach.
Yeah.
No, right now you really need to do and teach.
Exactly.
And then you got to
Exactly.
pay them.
Exactly. Exactly. All
Yeah,
of that. I'm
all of
just
that.
I'm just checking on time. I do have a couple of questions. I wanted to ask you, you know, what's next? What is next for Bunker Hill Community College, especially as we think about these modern learners and the challenges they face, and that they are the future of hopefully filling the gap that's being left by the fact that people chose not to have children 18, 19 years ago or 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right? Like, given that, what's the next thing that you feel like, whether it's Bunker Hill, community colleges in general, need to do to sort of prepare and make sure we're creating, as you said, a student centric model
Yeah.
for them to come back and to succeed?
I think the student centeredness or the learner centeredness is already here. It's how wide do we orientate that student centeredness,
Mm,
right? It's no longer just the student in your classroom and you're center on that students. It's got to be beyond that. It's and we do talk about that in the book. Now
yeah.
the student awareness has to be the student, the family, the generational impact, the cultural impact, and their place in a community and then the safety net underneath the community. So I think so what's next is at two levels. The first level is bringing this kind of consciousness and making sure that it stays in the lifeblood of Bunker Hill. I think a lot of it is there, but the more professional development we bring in for our faculty and for our staff, for them to understand that their role is much wider. Don't
Mm,
complain the next time I say, go to that chamber meeting or go to that community gathering. It's because we have a place. The goal there is no one has a conversation about education and higher education in Greater Boston without Bunker Hill at the table. That's the
mm,
goal, right?
I love it.
And that works in policy. So part of our work is grounded in the field of direct delivery, but the other part of my job is to make sure that Beacon Hill, my legislature and our senators and our representatives understand what it means to have free community college, that that is a public good that's going to extend to workforce development and community development. Nationally, it is also similar. One of the reasons why I spend so much time outside of Bunker Hill is I realize if the national narrative doesn't lift, none of us lift, right? So it is nationally as well as that no conversation about education should happen without community colleges being in the mix. There's a reason why I joined the American Council for Education because they're primarily seen as 4 year. No, you need community colleges in there.
Right.
So there is a responsibility, I think, for community college leadership nationwide to get around those tables, right? We shouldn't have separate tables. They are our tables. And we need to flip that stack of pancakes
Right.
for all of us. And
Right.
I think we'll be better off.
Well, and I think about our survey and what you've shared about your population, which is the same when we think about the modern learner. And they say it's worth it because they see that as the path to economic mobility.
That's right.
So you can read headlines that say, "Is college still worth it?" And for a lot of people, they're looking at the ROI, et cetera. But for I think the majority of the population, right, they're looking at this is my way into the middle class and
That's
beyond, right? And that is still true for a big chunk of the folks that are going to college today.
Yeah, I mean, folks say to me all the time, well, not everybody needs college. And I would look at them and say, you're allowed to define the definition of college differently to say post-secondary education. But if you say not everybody needs to go, is that your child or is it my child? Right? Is the aspiration for your child so much higher that you don't think mine needs to go to college or have training? So I think that elitism is still there, and we really need to do a better job that everybody needs a piece of this.
Well, and it's that education isn't. We have changed so much as the way we operate and how technology is just part of everything that we do. I pick up this phone, and is that we absolutely need further education. You can call it college or whatever you want to call it. When you talk about a degree apprenticeship, somebody may not think of that as college, but it is.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. I think we have changed so much in the last 100 years since the community college were established. Community colleges have changed over time, right? We're no longer junior colleges or secretarial colleges.
Yep.
Now it is truly a stepping stone, or it can be an endpoint, right? But it is, I think we really need to, if we're going to restore public trust and really believe that all of our higher educational institutions are there for the public good, we cannot just look at the 3% of elite colleges and say, oh, we need to be kind of like that.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing we're sort of supportive here at Trellis is that it's not a linear path anymore.
No.
It is not. You don't get out of high school. I mean, yes, there are people who do this, get out of high school, go to 4 years college, go in the workforce, maybe go back and get a master's, et cetera. It is much more like in and outs. We call them on-ramps. We've had every name, off-ramps, on-ramps, all kinds of things. And since I was young, I've heard about lifelong learning, but I feel like lifelong learning today has become more of the norm.
It really has. And I don't think you can survive anymore with 1 or 2 careers, in your lifetime. The last week I counted, somebody said 6. I'm like, okay, 6 sounds reasonable. You have 65 years to work. That's about a career for each decade. That's about right.
Right. Well, and depending on what AI does over here in the medical field, we might be saying 70 or 80. Who knows how long we're going to be for.
It's an exciting world. We have so much to look forward to. It is terrific.
I agree. Pam, I could talk to you forever. We're going to have to get coffee. We're going to get coffee at some point. But it's 3:55 here. And I just wanted to check, Andrea, if there were any questions. We have a little bit of time from anybody in the audience.
I think you all covered it, and you just got at everything everyone was thinking about.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Well, I still have more questions for you, but we are out of time. So we're going to have to save that for part 2.
Save that for coffee. That's right.
Yes, for coffee. That's right. Coffee. Yes. Coffee with Pam. We could make that our own little podcast.
Debra, that was so much fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for sharing so much with us. I really appreciate it.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.